Best thing that's ever happened to you financially. Go.
Easy. Sold my car on Carvana. Amazing offer.
Really? I hit 200 on a scratcher.
Did the scratcher come to your house and hand you a check?
No.
How many scratchers did you hit to get that? I hit a button on Carvana.com once.
Okay, that's fair.
It's like the lottery, except you always win.
Not like the lottery at all, actually.
Exactly. Inexplicably good. Offers worth bragging about. Sell your car today on Carvana. Pickup fees may apply.
Hi, I'm Juliet Cowley, a retired FBI profiler and host of the true crime podcast, The Consult, Real FBI Profilers. If you're fascinated with true crime and criminal profiling, then join us as we discuss real cases and examine the behavior exhibited before, during, and after the commission of the crime. You can listen to The Consult wherever you get your podcasts. It's as close as it gets to being in the room with the FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 471 of the True Crime All the Time Unsolved podcast. I'm Mike Ferguson, and with me, as always, is my partner in true crime, Mike Gibson. Gibby, how are you?
I'm doing good, man.
Man?
Yeah.
You doing a little Jamaica? Don't make me think about my Jamaican vacation.
If I had a red stripe beer, I'd crack it open right now. Just,
you know, it's funny. My mom bought my stepdad some red stripe just so that he can kind of relive the Jamaican vacation.
Nice.
Smart thinking, right?
Yeah, it really is.
Let's go ahead and give our Patreon shout outs. We had Jamie Basil.
Hey, thanks, Jamie.
Alicia Konya.
What's going on, Alicia?
Farnaz Arshuri.
Farnaz.
Nikki Basie, or Bocce, as you believe it is. And you're probably right.
I probably am, but hey, Nikki.
Cynthia.
What's up? Or it's Cynthia.
And last but not least, Jess Hake.
Hey, what's going on, Hake?
And then if we go back into the vault, this week we selected Karen Kirk.
Well, hey, thanks, Karen.
Yeah, so we appreciate that. We have an episode out right now on True Crime All the Time where we're talking about Julie Williams, who was poisoned when a man was trying to kill his wife at work, Gibbs.
Yeah.
It is a wild, crazy story.
Be careful at work, people.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's out right now. Make sure you check that out. We also dropped a Patreon episode Saturday night on Anna Trujillo.
Unrelated to Danny.
Yeah, but you do talk about Danny, I think, in the episode.
I do.
Anna called to report that her boyfriend was bleeding inside his apartment. She answered the door covered in blood. And investigators, they found this gruesome crime scene and soon discovered that the murder weapon was Anna's high-heeled shoe.
So, guys, if you're going to make your woman upset, make sure her stilettos are nowhere nearby.
Yeah, because she did some unspeakable things with a high-heeled shoe. All right, buddy, are you ready to get into this episode of True Crime All the Time Unsolved?
I'm ready.
We're talking about the murder of Marlene Hayes. In March 1981, Marlene Hayes left work early because she wasn't feeling well and interrupted someone burglarizing her home. She was beaten and stabbed to death. Moments after she walked through the door, the brutal crime shocked and terrified her neighborhood. Over 40 years later, her murder remains unsolved. Marlene Audrey Coleman, later Hayes, was born on February 16th, 1943, in Baltimore, Maryland. She was 38 years old at the time of her death. She and her husband, Thomas, had two sons, Thomas Jr. and Scott. In the late 1970s, the Hayes family moved from Jopatown to Bel Air, Maryland. They bought a home in the Foxbow development, which was said to be an affluent neighborhood.
It's Foxbow.
You're familiar with Foxbow?
Oh, who doesn't know about Foxbow?
Okay. They moved there because they wanted to get away from an increase in crime in their old neighborhood. Their new house was on a cul-de-sac, and they thought a dead-end street was less likely to be burglarized.
I can see that logic.
Nah, I really don't. Because I feel like if you're on the main street and you have a lot of houses around you and more traffic, maybe then you're less likely to be burglarized. I feel like if you're at the end of a cul-de-sac, and especially if you have like woods behind you or something like that,
Right.
maybe that's a little bit easier to burglarize. I don't know.
You're probably right, because that's what happened to my brother a few months ago down in Columbus. He lives on a cul-de-sac with woods behind him, and the individual pulled up in a service truck with a service trailer and robbed both his house and the neighbor's house.
Oh, man, that's scary as all get out.
Yeah.
Obviously, they weren't home.
Neither one were home. Yeah.
Thankfully. So they settled into their new life in Bel Air. Thomas and Marlene owned a car dealership called Carport Inc. Marlene did accounting and managed the office. She quit her part-time job so she could work for her husband and be home when her boys arrived from school. Sounds like a perfect scenario.
It really does.
You know, you're working with your husband, but you also have that flexibility, right? To be home when the kids get home from school. Sounds ideal.
As long as you're okay working with your spouse.
Yeah. You know, I met my wife at work. We worked together after we got married for a little while, not that long.
Yeah.
You know, there is something to be said for not being with someone 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
You know, maybe having a little bit of time apart so that you don't get on each other's nerves quite as much.
I could see maybe her working for you. I don't see you working well for her.
Oh, you think she could work for me?
I think there's a better chance of that than you working for her.
Well, yeah, there's zero chance of that, but there's also zero chance of her ever working for me because she does not like me to tell her what to do.
No.
And she doesn't handle criticism very well at all, so none of that would go over well.
Well, and you do criticize.
I do.
Yeah.
I do. When it comes to work.
Yes.
Neighbors described Marlene as wonderful and happy-go-lucky. Marlene enjoyed hosting neighbors in the summers. And I feel like, I know people get tired of me saying back in the day, but, you know, when we were younger, I feel like there was a lot of block parties.
Oh, yeah.
And more like neighborhood get-togethers. And maybe it's just where I live. There are none to be found.
Don't hear about them like you used to. But you're right. Back in the day, you know, I remember my parents, they were headed out the door every weekend, or somebody was coming over, you know, the group was coming to our house, or they were going to somebody else's house. Everybody took something with them, food, right?
And then they put their keys in the bowl, and whatever happened.
Yeah, you know. You were just told, don't ever come downstairs.
Yes.
You know, or come up if you need us. Do not come down here.
They also had a rumpus room.
Well, I mean, everybody needs a rumpus room.
But a lot of people have them back in the 60s, I think. Not really sure what they were for other than rumpus.
Rumpusing?
Neighbors thought she and Thomas were a very nice couple who always did things together. According to The Aegis, a paper for Hartford County, no one in town seemed to dislike the couple. The murder of Marlene Hayes wasn't the first time the family were victims of crime. In mid-January 1981, Thomas Hayes was robbed at gunpoint at his business. The robber called him pretending to be a deputy. He asked Thomas to come to Carport Inc. because a break-in had occurred. Thomas told state police that when he arrived at his car lot, he didn't see a police car and became suspicious. At that point, a man appeared at his car door and demanded he got out. When he refused to get out of his car, the man pulled out a gun. Thomas got out and unlocked his office door as instructed. He was then robbed of $15,000. He wasn't injured, and no shots were fired during the incident. Thomas described the suspect as a 25-year-old black male. He was wearing a light stocking cap, a green army fatigue jacket, blue jeans, blue tennis shoes, and black gloves. And I couldn't find anywhere in any articles where that case was ever resolved.
Yeah.
So if it was, or just it wasn't reported on, But $15,000 in 1981, that's quite a chunk of change. What do you think that would be today, Gibbs? We haven't done that in a while. Beep, boop, beep, boop, beep, boop, boop.
15,000?
Yeah.
Today?
In today's dollars.
275,000.
Okay. I have no idea. I always go with you.
Yeah.
Somebody will say either you're right or you're way off. Now, you have inflation, which is kind of what we're talking about here, but then you also have investing.
Yeah.
And I kind of think in terms of investing.
Right. So do I.
And if you invested $15,000 in 1981, it would outpace inflation, right? You'd have more money, but
I mean, if I just wanted to go cut for cut, 15 today, 88,000.
okay.
But I think if you do it the other way, it's going to be what I
More.
said.
I still believe you either way
Yeah.
because I have no idea. But I do want to talk about this incident a little bit. It's kind of ingenious if you think about it. I hate to say that about a criminal, but you don't want to walk in during business hours because there's going to be a lot of people there.
Witnesses.
And so somehow whoever this was either knew the owner and where they lived and maybe the phone number, or they found out who the owner was.
Yeah.
Found out his phone number, called him, pretended to be a deputy. I mean, face it, if you owned a business and you thought the police were calling you saying your business was broken into, you'd be headed right down there.
Yeah, of course.
And then obviously when he got there, this guy had a gun on him. What else could he do? Around 11 a.m. on March 17th, 1981, Marlene left work early because she wasn't feeling well. She pulled into her driveway, walked inside through the kitchen door, and approached a set of stairs leading to the second floor. Investigators believe she stumbled upon a home burglary in progress. Marlene was attacked almost as soon as she entered the house, as evidenced by the fact that she was still wearing her coat. Police believe she was attacked on the stairs. She was struck in the head by an item in her home that was used as a weapon of opportunity, according to Captain Andrew Lane of the Harford County Sheriff's Department. Marlene was restrained and stabbed twice in the chest. There's a couple of things here. Obviously, they believe this burglary was occurring at the time that she walked in. Now, maybe they knew her and her husband's schedule.
Right.
And thought, okay, she's going to be at work for X amount of hours. And this was just unfortunate that she wasn't feeling well that day and decided to come home early. You have the fact that she's attacked while she's wearing her coat, which would lead investigators to believe that it happened fairly quickly after she entered the home. Most people take their coat off.
They do.
Not too long after they get inside. And then, I was really kind of fixated on this weapon of opportunity, because to me, that means the people didn't bring something with them.
Yeah.
They found something in the home once they probably heard that she was entering.
And used that to knock her out. But to stab her twice in the chest, if you're just robbing the place, the only reason I would think you would do that is because you don't have a mask on. She's seen your face and maybe might know who you are.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right on the money there, because if there's no chance that the person could identify you, you could very easily restrain them, continue to take whatever you want, and just leave them there. Somebody's going to find them when they come home later. There's no reason to kill them if you don't believe they can identify you. Yeah. So I think you're right there. Marlene's son, 15-year-old Thomas Jr., came home from school around 3 p.m. and found his mother face down on the kitchen floor. She was bound at the hands and ankles. He tried speaking to her and lifted her, and then saw the blood on her face. Thomas ran to a friend's house and shouted, "My mother is dead. My mother is dead." I mean, poor kid, man. 15 years old to find your mother dead like that.
Traumatizing. And then to run to your neighbors to say that your mom is dead, something that in any neighborhood you wouldn't expect. But, they moved to this affluent neighborhood back in the cul-de-sac because they thought it was going to be one of the safest places to be. And it turns out it's not.
And I can't help but wonder if there is any connection between this burglary and murder and the robbery of the business.
Could be.
Maybe we'll get into it more as we go through the story, but maybe they thought, we know where these people live. We already got $15,000 from them. They probably got a bunch more at home.
So when you think about the car market, they're going to deal with a lot of cash. And if you're trying to rob somebody or someplace to get that cash, that's a good place to try to find that. And like you said, they hit it kind of big at the business, and maybe they thought, as you mentioned, there's going to be a lot more back at the house.
There were no signs of forced entry, so investigators thought it was possible that the family left the doors unlocked. The burglar or burglars had ransacked one room in the house. They escaped with cash, jewelry, and Marlene's car. And I think it is possible, Gibbs. We know a lot of people, especially in years past, have left their houses unlocked.
Yeah, it really wasn't that uncommon, especially back then.
And maybe they thought, like you said, hey, we moved to this great neighborhood, it's low crime, we feel safe. Maybe they didn't feel there was a need to lock it.
Yeah.
Detective Chris Sargent later told WMAR that he didn't think Marlene was targeted. The suspect or suspects probably thought nobody would come home, and they were caught off guard when she interrupted them. Marlene's missing Toyota Tercel was found later that day in the William James Elementary School parking lot in Abingdon, Maryland. Witnesses said a man abandoned the car. Police believe this man is their main suspect.
Oh, I would say so.
Yeah, I think both of those things are pretty common sense type of statements, right? I don't believe that the suspects targeted her specifically. It does seem like they thought nobody would be home when they were committing this burglary. And then, whoever abandoned this car has got to be your main suspect. When Gibby and I started the podcast, we had a world of doubts. Like, what if nobody listens? What if we make fools of ourselves? Well, now we know we were right in starting the podcast. Every little bit helps. And what really helped us was having a partner like Shopify on our side to help. We've been using Shopify for our podcast merch for 6 or 7 years now. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world and 10% of all e-commerce in the US, from household names like Gymshark to True Crime All the Time to brands just getting started. Shopify has hundreds of ready-to-use templates that help you build a beautiful online store that matches your brand's style. They also help you easily create email and social media campaigns wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling. And Shopify is always around to share advice with their award-winning 24/7 customer support. It's time to turn those what-ifs into with Shopify today. Sign up for your $1 per month trial today at shopify.com/unsolved. Go to shopify.com/unsolved. That's shopify.com/unsolved. Folks, getting paid twice a month doesn't mean money is scarce. It just feels that way. That feeling makes you do weird stuff, like putting things on a card you didn't need to and stuff like that. Earn-In removes that feeling. Access up to $150 a day of money you've already earned, plus up to $1,000 between paychecks. Tips are optional, and standard transfers take 1 to 2 business days with no mandatory fees. Expedited transfers start at $3.99 and cap at $5.99. 5 million people are already on it, and honestly, it's wild it didn't exist sooner. About 20 years ago, I had an unexpected issue with my car, and I couldn't wait to get paid, so I ended up going to one of those payday loan places, and it cost a fortune. Man, I could have really used Earn-In. Download Earn-In on the App Store or Google Play, spelled like EARNING, earning money without the G. Type in True Crime All the Time under podcast when you sign up. It'll really help the show. Earn-In is a financial technology company, not a bank. Access limits are based on your earnings and risk factors. Standard cash outs take 1 to 2 business days with no mandatory fees. Expedited transfers available for a fee. Tips are voluntary and don't affect the service. Available in select states. Terms and restrictions apply. Visit earnin.com for full details. 2 days later, police announced that they plan to question 2 local men in connection with Marlene's murder, but that did not necessarily mean they were suspects. Police weren't certain whether 1 or 2 people were involved. It was also not known how the intruder gained entry to the home. 2 residents of Marlene's neighborhood told the Aegis they wondered if the murder was related to the December 1980 murder of William D. Labons, who lived about a mile and a half from the Hayes family in a neighborhood called Plumtree Estates. He was murdered by a hitman who tried to make the incident look like a burglary gone wrong.
But for that to take place, for that to tie in, right? I mean, she was at work, didn't feel good. Like, you wouldn't have known what time she was going to get home because you didn't know she was even going to come home because she felt ill, unless somehow the hitman made her get sick at work.
Yeah, I know. I get where you're going with this. It does seem like a strange hitman scenario because she wasn't supposed to be home at that time.
Yeah.
So I think, at least to me, it makes more sense of the burglary and then her just kind of coming home unexpectedly.
Right.
But let's face it, if someone wanted to get rid of, let's say, their spouse, making it look like a burglary gone wrong might not be the worst way to do it.
Yeah.
But police didn't think the murders were connected. At that point, the Labans case hadn't been solved, and leads pointed to a number of suspects. Russ Herbert, who sold Carport Inc. to Thomas Hayes, told the Aegis that Thomas was fair and above board in his business dealings. He continued to do business with Thomas after the sale. He spoke to Marlene on the morning of the murder. He never heard the couple talking about having any enemies. In late March, the police issued composite sketches and descriptions of 2 men sought for questioning. One was described as a white male, believed to be 18 to 25 years old. He was seen operating a red Toyota north on Tollgate Road, then north on Route 1 to Route 24, where he turned right. The second subject was also described as a young white male. He was seen hitchhiking in the vicinity of Route 24, about 1 mile from William James Elementary School, where Marlene's car was found. 2 different descriptions by 2 different witnesses were given for the second subject, but the description of the first subject given by a local resident was a good one, according to police. And police did note that they were not calling them suspects yet.
Like some good leads.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you want to talk to these 2 individuals. You know, one is seen in a red Toyota. You know, I'm assuming, it didn't say, but I'm assuming Marlene's Toyota Tercel was red.
Yeah.
Also, you've got this other guy who's hitchhiking about a mile from where her car was found. Okay.
Yeah.
Does that mean he's involved? No, but do you want to talk to him? Absolutely.
Yeah, maybe he dumped the car there and started hitchhiking.
Well, that's the thing. Nobody said that this guy got into another car or they saw him get into another car. He just walked away. So maybe there was a car waiting for him out of sight.
Right.
Or maybe he walked, somewhere or hitchhiked or who knows. Police were reluctant to say how much jewelry and cash were taken from the house for fear of jeopardizing the investigation. Sergeant William Van Horn told the Aegis, "There are some details that only the murderer knows, and we need to keep that confidential." And man, we talk about it all the time, right? This is something that police do frequently. They have to decide, what can we disclose and what do we need to hold back?
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's kind of those details that could help them corroborate whether someone is telling the truth, if they make a guilty admission or something to that effect. normally something that they believe only the killer would know.
Which is good to do. I also think that you need to kind of put milestones in place. Like if we don't hear by this time, if we don't have something solid by this time, maybe we need to release a few more of those tips, that clues out to the public that might be able to help out instead of holding them close to us in hopes that a suspect comes along. I just think sometimes you can wait too long keeping that in when it might be able to help to get it out to the public too. So it's got to be a hard thing to weigh.
Well, because we talk about it a lot on Unsolved.
Yeah.
Right? You end up 20, 30, 40 years down the road and find out that police still have information that they haven't shared.
Right.
Or they waited 10 or 15 years to share. And you're asking yourself, well, what would have happened if maybe they'd have shared it sooner?
Yeah.
But it's hard, right? It's a hard decision to make. I get that. Deputies were continuing to follow up on leads, including one from the state police in Bel Air who questioned a suspect in Bowie regarding a burglary. Ultimately, that lead didn't tie in with the incident at the Hayes home. Investigators theorized that the killer may have been committing burglaries in the Foxbow development with another criminal who dropped him off at the Hayes house. He may have been picked up by this partner after he abandoned Marlene's car. And I don't think that's a bad theory. I think a lot of times you see people work together when it comes to burglaries, right? Yeah. Like at least two people, maybe even more. The murder caused so much fear in the entire county that local gun dealers and security companies saw a spike in sales. The state police also reported receiving an increase in requests for gun permits.
I can see that happening.
It almost always does.
Yeah.
Right? In these murders that we talk about, especially if they occur in places where they don't experience a lot of that type of crime, you see this massive spike in gun sales. Well, why is that? Because maybe those people don't have a gun, and now all of a sudden they're worried, what's going to happen if I don't have one? And somebody breaks in, am I going to be able to protect myself?
Yeah.
And people listening in other countries are saying, what do you mean? You're allowed to have a gun in your home? Yeah. Because it's just something they're not allowed to do in many countries. The Foxbow Development Association established a reward fund for information leading to the arrest and conviction of Marlene's killer or killers. And that's not surprising to me either, right? If this is an affluent neighborhood, the last thing that you want is an unsolved murder in your neighborhood.
Oh, yeah. One, you got to be nervous for you and your family.
Sure.
That maybe they're targeting this neighborhood. Secondly, you want to be able to tell the public and future buyers of this neighborhood, you don't need to worry about anything if you buy here and move in here. It's a good place to live. Don't worry. Pay the full price. Let's not have our market tank because of this.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking to buy a nice home and spend quite a bit of money, are you going to move in to a development and pay top dollar when there's this unsolved murder that just occurred? And I think for a lot of people, the answer is no.
Yeah. Why would you?
Even though we all know things like this could happen anywhere.
Exactly.
But if you're a home buyer, you're not thinking about that. You're thinking about the fact that it did happen here.
Right.
In April, the sheriff's office revealed that they had received numerous responses for the composite sketches. Sergeant William Van Horn didn't say how many people police had questioned, but did say that some of the individuals had criminal records and some did not. They still had no definite suspect. He did confirm that $8,000 to $9,000 worth of jewelry was taken from the home and none of the items had been recovered.
Well, that's a lot of money for jewelry back then.
It is. But you would also think that that's an angle the police would have been working very hard on, right? Where did this jewelry end up? Pawn shops, different places like that.
You're not going to be able to trace the cash, but this is something that you potentially could trace.
Well, and especially if Thomas had any type of detail, right, about the jewelry that was taken. And a lot of people who have expensive jewelry do because, they add it to their homeowner's policy or whatever. So they have to have fairly decent records of what they have. Police still didn't know exactly how the burglar gained entry to the home. Investigators have also never said what item was used to beat Marlene. In December, the Aegis reported that 1981 could be considered the year of the burglar in Harford County. The paper reported that there were almost 1,000 break-ins reported in the county year, costing almost $1 million in stolen or damaged property.
That's a problem.
That's a lot of break-ins. Well, at least it is to me. I don't know what a normal county number is, but 1,000 seems like a lot.
I feel like, again, permits for guns are going to go up. And I don't really know when the alarm system companies really started hitting marketing really hard, but I'm guessing that this is a dream for them.
Yeah, because they're going out to all these houses probably and knocking on doors and saying, hey, if you don't have one, we got one for you.
Yeah, I mean, kind of using kind of scare tactic marketing.
It was noted that less than 6 hours after Marlene Hayes was killed, a 16-year-old boy in Churchville was accosted in his home by 2 intruders who threatened him with a knife and tied him up with a phone cord. The 2 cases were not related, according to the police.
So this is what I love about cell phones now, because nobody really has landlines in their home anymore. So you don't have to worry about getting the old phone cord tied around you. Because,
because there's no other cords in the home that could be used besides phone cords. But I get what you're saying, right? Less and less people every day probably have a landline.
Yeah, you remember how long those phone cords could be, because it had to, if you only had 1 or 2 phones, it had to reach everywhere.
Yeah, the kids would take them in their room and shut the door back in the day.
Yeah.
The police confirmed the number of break-ins was up significantly. A manpower shortage at the sheriff's department hampered efforts to prevent increasing break-ins in the county.
I'm also trying to remember when the old neighborhood watch programs came out.
Yeah, I think they would have been around in the 80s. Yeah. I'm pretty sure. I don't know. I was never part of one. It seemed like a big commitment.
You were probably on their list, though.
Oh, I'm sure I was.
To keep an eye on.
And I feel like that now. I mean, as far as I know, there is no neighborhood watch program where I live, or nobody's asked me to be a part of it. I'm kind of the neighborhood watch for my own house.
Yeah. Well, they probably feel like you're going to be okay because you're the only house in this place that has motorized shutters on windows and doors.
It's like the Purge up in here.
It kind of is.
In January 1982, Marlene's husband, Thomas Hayes, was indicted on federal charges in connection with alleged abuses of a small business administration loan. Hayes and his employee, Lawrence Milburn, were indicted on charges pertaining to concealments in transactions concerning a small business administration loan. Carport Inc. closed shortly after Marlene was murdered, and Thomas filed for bankruptcy over the summer. According to the indictment, both men knowingly attempted to conceal, remove, and dispose of property pledged to be held by the SBA as collateral for the loan. But as often is the case, Gibbs, we just couldn't really find any reporting about the indictment, what happened with it, anything like that. You find that quite a lot when you're researching true crime, especially when you're using a lot of old newspaper articles and things like that. They'll report on something, but then there won't be any follow-up.
Yeah, it just kind of stops there.
Yeah, there's just nothing after it. But I do believe there was, and I don't know how much small business administration loans still occur, or if that's even a thing, but I think there was quite a bit of abuse with those types of things. Like there is abuse with everything.
Oh, of course.
Right? Everything that is well-meaning, somebody figures out a way to take advantage of the system.
Yeah, I mean, the SBA loans are still out there, and they're there for a good reason. But like you said, if someone can figure out how to manipulate it to their benefit or do some fraudulent activity.
Yeah. And I feel like I remember reading that there was quite a bit of that during COVID.
Yeah.
Maybe related with small business loans as well.
I could see that.
True Crime All the Time Unsolved is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy. Just drop in some details about yourself and see if you're eligible to save money when you bundle your home and auto policies. The process only takes minutes, and it can mean hundreds more in your pocket. Visit Progressive.com after this episode to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
This podcast is supported by MIDI Health. Are you in midlife? Feeling dismissed, unheard, or just plain tired of the old healthcare system? You're not alone. In fact, even today, 75% of women seeking care for menopause and perimenopause issues are left entirely untreated. But it's time for a change. It's time for MIDI. MIDI's not just a healthcare provider. It's a women's telehealth clinic founded and supported by world-class leaders in women's health. Their clinicians provide one-on-one, face-to-face consultations where they truly listen to your unique needs. They offer a full range of holistic, data-driven solutions that isn't one-size-fits-all care. This is care uniquely tailored for you. At MIDI, you will find that their mission is clear: to help all women thrive in midlife, giving them access to the healthcare they deserve. Because they believe midlife isn't the middle at all. It is the beginning of your second act. Ready to feel your best and write your second act script? Visit joinmidi.com today to book your personalized, insurance-covered virtual visit. That's joinmidi.com. MIDI, the care women deserve.
A week later, the Aegis reported that police were investigating new leads in the murder of Marlene Hayes and Marianne Mitchell, a 19-year-old who was killed on May 21st, 1981. Sergeant William Van Horn told the paper that a suspect in another murder case had been checked out, but no information connected him to Marlene's murder. And I think you're going to also have this in a lot of unsolved cases, right? When you know that there's another murder, let's say not that far away, well, you definitely want to check into the person who is thought or known to have committed that to see if they could be responsible for your unsolved murder.
Yeah, I think it's smart, do some, due diligence there and determine that.
In November 1983, police in Maryland were looking into the possibility of linking the suspicious disappearance of a 17-year-old honor student in the city of Havre de Grace to Henry Lee Lucas, who confessed to several homicides in Harford and Cecil counties.
He confessed to a lot of things.
Yeah, we've talked about Lucas quite a bit, right? Known as the confession killer, was convicted of murdering his mother in 1960 and two others in 1983. He became infamous when he falsely confessed to approximately 600 other murders. And, if you haven't seen the Henry Lee Lucas doc on Netflix, it's really worth a watch. The whole thing about the strawberry milkshakes and the agencies wanting to close their cases and kind of feeding him information.
Yeah.
It's fascinating, to say the least.
I think he just liked talking to people.
Well, I think he liked the attention. I think he liked the milkshakes.
Yeah.
I think he also liked getting to go places because they would take him out to some of these crime scenes and he would give them information. I think the problem is it turned out that some of it he was fed or given or he already knew somehow. And, obviously that's kind of a bad deal.
But hey, he probably wanted to be out there, obviously, than being inside of a cell all day.
Well, who wouldn't? I mean, if you got people gushing all over you because they're so happy that you're helping them to solve their cases, you're getting a strawberry milkshake every time one case is solved, and you're just getting outside.
Yeah.
In the fresh air and having just the slightest taste of freedom. Who wouldn't take that opportunity? Lisa Dara Swope disappeared on December 30th, 1981, Lucas said that one of the alleged victims was hidden in a water-filled quarry in Pennsylvania, as well as the victim's vehicle. The police department and the Pennsylvania State Police searched a quarry in Nottingham, Pennsylvania, but nothing was found. Sergeant Van Gilder said his department first learned of the murder suspect from a teletype sent to the Maryland State Police, which stated that Texas authorities had a suspect in custody, saying he killed someone in Perryville. The state police sent the teletype to police agencies across the state. The Harford County Sheriff's Department said they were not linking any of their cases to Henry Lee Lucas or his accomplice at that time.
Yeah, and who was that? Nice looking guy.
Oh, old Otis Toole. Yeah. They made a fine looking pair of the two of them. They had about 3 teeth between the two of them.
Between the two of them?
I know this. They were definitely getting their corn on the cob cut off. There's no way that either one of those dudes was eating a corn on the cob.
Get that cut
It
off.
just wasn't happening. Maybe that's why he liked milkshakes so much.
Maybe.
Because he didn't have to chew them. However, Corporal David Sainman of Harford County Sheriff's Department did say that the Sheriff's Department is still investigating the murder of Marlene Hayes, 38, who was found stabbed to death in her Foxbow development home near Bel Air after returning home from work on March 17, 1981. There might be a connection, but there is nothing relating Lucas to Hayes at this time.
And I believe that. I don't think Henry Lee Lucas had anything to do with her murder.
No, obviously we know he didn't have anything to do with most of the murders that they tried to tie him to or that he admitted to. Henry Lee Lucas was ultimately convicted of murdering 11 people and sentenced to death for the murder of a Jane Doe, who was later identified as Deborah Jackson. Lucas's death sentence was later commuted to life in prison. He recanted his confessions as a hoax. With the exception of murdering his mother, he died of congestive heart failure in 2001.
And if you want to learn more about that, if you haven't heard our case, the episode that we did on him, you should go out and listen to it.
Episodes, probably multiple. Yeah, on True Crime All the Time. So by the end of 1983, 3 unsolved murders in the area were causing fear among the community. There were still no promising leads in the murder of Marlene Hayes. In March 1983, 15-year-old Jennifer Claybrook was strangled to death in a field in Bel Air. Then on December 1st, 43-year-old Nancy Pucci was shot to death in the basement of a vacant house in Bel Air. So, I mean, if there already wasn't, quite a bit of alarm and panic, Gibbs, now you have these additional murders. You have more residents of Bel Air starting to lock their doors, being very wary of strangers, and even their fellow community members, right? So if there is an outbreak of murders, or there's a number of murders in the area, you're going to be fearful of all kinds of different things, right? Is there a serial killer? Is there, a stranger who comes into town every so often? But also, is a member of our community just out there killing people? And they live in right here next to us somewhere.
Yeah, and I don't know what's worse. Is it worse to have a serial killer that maybe killed 3 people? Or is it worse that you just have 3 random killings? And I think it's worse that you have 3 random killings.
By 3 different people?
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, it's all terrible, obviously. But
yeah.
Is it a little scarier? Maybe. Lieutenant John Harkins of the Bel Air PD told the Aegis, "We want to stress that none of these cases are related. The circumstances surrounding all 4 are completely different. This should dispel some of the feelings of the public. Even if we had police on every street corner, there was no way to prevent them from happening." And I'd go back to what you just said. Does it alleviate the stress or the feelings of the public, or does it make it even worse? Okay, you're saying they're not related, but we still have a lot of murders here.
Yeah, I mean, if they're not related, instead of having 1 killer out there, we've got maybe 4 killers out there. I don't like that.
No, because if you catch one, that doesn't mean they all end, right?
Exactly.
You could have somebody out there who continues to kill, or multiple people. Marlene's husband, Thomas Hayes, died in January 1984. Over 40 years later, Marlene's family is still left without answers. Investigators hope new DNA technology will solve the case. And we mentioned it earlier that investigators did an extensive canvass of the neighborhood at the time of the murder and identified several pieces of jewelry missing from the home. So obviously there's always a chance, right, that a piece of jewelry is going to be identified and they can trace it back maybe somehow. Now that's if it hasn't all been melted down, many, many years ago. But I want to go back to investigators talking about new DNA technology.
Yeah.
That would lead one to believe that they have some DNA to work with, or that they have evidence that they're hoping one day they can extract a DNA sample from.
Which would be awesome.
It would be awesome, but they've been pretty tight-lipped, I think, about the evidence that they do have. So we don't know exactly what that is. In 2024, Captain Andrew Lane of the Harford County Sheriff's Office told WMAR the brutality of what occurred. Whether this occurred a month ago or 42 years ago, this isn't the kind of crime we're ever going to stop investigating because of the nature of what occurred. He added that the case had been active within the last few months and the evidence was well preserved. He said some of these older cases, as we stretch back 40 years, the abilities of law enforcement and forensic science were completely different. However, thankfully, in cases like this and other ones, the evidence that was recovered properly, it was stored properly, and it allows us years later to come back and apply modern science where they couldn't then. And there's no doubt he's absolutely right about that. They were limited in the early 1980s.
Sure they were.
With what they could do with evidence, obviously, especially on the DNA front. I just wonder, in some of these older unsolved cases, and I'll speak specifically to Marlene's case, have they even tested the evidence since, some of the newer DNA technology has, come about? Because we've talked about it and heard it many times, right? There is so much evidence in evidence lockers and evidence rooms across the country that has never been tested.
Right.
Because why? It costs a lot of money.
It does cost a lot of money.
There's time involved, resources, all of that. So we just don't know. But at least they do have evidence. So there's some hope there on the DNA front.
Well, thank goodness back then, the practices that they used to collect evidence benefit us today.
Yeah, and the way they stored it and all of that.
I would love to know that whoever did commit this, and if they're still alive, that they're thinking, shit.
Yeah, they're freaking out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You always want to believe that.
Yes.
And I don't mean you specifically. I just mean you as in we all do, because we don't want these people to get away with it and live like a happy life. Yeah, they haven't been caught, but at the very least, are they fearful? Are they worried about every knock at the door? I'm hoping at the very least there's some of that.
Yes.
Until they are caught.
I hope so.
According to a 2026 article from A&E, investigators were able to recover some of the missing jewelry from an unnamed suspect who was in the area at the time. These items were not able to be tested in the 80s, but investigators now hope DNA testing could be done. So, back to my earlier statement, this is an article from 2026. So that leads me to believe that some of the stuff they have just has not yet been tested.
Well, it sounds like we're on the precipice.
Yeah, or the precipice.
Yeah.
Somebody got you a thesaurus, I believe, for Father's Day, maybe. I don't know. That's a great word because it's perfect. Yeah, I mean, It's almost like you think there could be a breakthrough. And I like that in these cases, right? Yeah. You feel for everybody involved, the victims, their families. And now you see that it's possible that Marlene's case could be solved through other means, fingerprint analysis, circumstantial evidence that connects an individual to a crime. DNA testing is probably the one that you would think would be most likely to break it wide open.
Yeah.
But there's some possibility.
There is. And that's always a good thing.
It is, because unfortunately we do talk about some cases where at the end of it, you're not left with a great deal of hope, right? Because they haven't talked about a ton of evidence. They haven't come out and said much in recent years. I'm getting a different vibe here.
Yeah, I like hope. I like hope floats.
I do not like the movie, but I'm with you on the hope part. If you have any information about the murder of Marlene Hayes, you can call the Harford County Sheriff's Office at 410-838-6600 or submit an anonymous tip at www.p3tips.com. So Gibbs, as we wrap this one up, there's a part of me that thinks about the unfortunate timing of things. What if Marlene doesn't get sick that day and she doesn't have to go home early? Do her and Thomas get home after work and discover that their home has been robbed? Okay, that would be a horrible thing.
It would.
But she would still be alive.
That's right.
And I think about that stuff quite a bit, right? Whether you want to call it the butterfly effect or whatever it is, one like deviation in someone's day can lead to something horrible.
It can.
And I think that's what we're seeing here, because I don't think she was targeted. I really don't. I think she walked in on a person or persons burglarizing the home, and for whatever reason, they decided to kill her. It very likely could have been because they weren't wearing masks and she saw them.
Right. They were worried that she could identify them.
Yes. And as we've heard before, many killers say, we just didn't want to take a chance on this person identifying us or however many people there are.
Yeah, because a lot of them have already served time and they don't want to go back.
And they learned that, right? They were convicted because someone was able to give a description of them, testify against them. And it's almost, I hate to say the word learned, but they did learn that if they're going to do this in the future, they can't allow that to happen again.
Right.
And that could be the situation we're talking about here. I don't know. But I would love to see this one solved. Absolutely.
Same here.
But that's it for our episode on Marlene Hayes. We got some voicemails. You want to check those out?
Let's hear them.
Hi, Mike and Gibby. This is Darian calling from New York. I know I left a voicemail yesterday, but I am on the episode of the Houston Lovers Lane murders. And finally, I come across a podcast, episode that was unsolved when I listened to it because I'm behind and I'm catching up. But as of March 2026, there was an arrest made for 64-year-old Floyd William in Nebraska, and they charged him with capital murder. So I came across that because I always research the episodes after I listen to them. Sorry, that's my feral child. And I just got excited. Hold on. So I just wanted to give you guys an update. Sorry, I'm going to end now because she's feral and it's bedtime, but I wish you guys a good evening and keep your own time ticking.
All right, thanks for the update. Yeah, we always love that because, to be honest, Gibby and I don't spend a lot of time going back and re-researching cases we've already done because we're working on whatever's coming up next.
Yeah, but it's good to hear.
It is.
Because we love that somebody is paying for the crime now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I like the fact that she called her feral.
I know.
That cracked me up.
Appreciate you.
Hey, what's up, guys? Captain Cat. Mike, congratulations to you, your family, your daughter. It's a big achievement, accomplishment. It's awesome. Gibby, congrats to you and your engagement. That's awesome, brother. Hope you guys had a good and fun time on your trip. Sounds like you did. Speaking of scuba diving, if you guys have ever seen that movie Along King Polly, you should check it out. Shit, I don't know. Something happened on this. Let me call back. Hold on.
Okay, he probably did call back, but I didn't record that one. But yeah, so it was nice, right? Shout outs for, you getting engaged, my daughter getting married, and we did have really good vacations.
Yeah, and also the fact that you didn't get your hot dog caught in your zipper or the beans above the franks or whatever when you were putting your suit on, and I don't know.
Yeah, no, none of that happened, thankfully.
Yeah,
but
not this time at least.
That movie, Along Came Polly, I've seen it. I like it. Is that the one with Ben Stiller and Jennifer Aniston? I think, right?
Isn't that where he gets the?
No.
Oh, that's
something about Mary. Is that what you were talking
That's
about?
what I was talking
I had no idea.
Oh,
no. Along Came Polly, I think, is Ben Stiller and Jennifer Aniston.
Oh yeah, they're out on the boat.
Yeah, but I don't remember the scuba. I'm gonna have to go back and watch it because I don't remember that part.
Yeah, I'm trying to think about that too.
Yeah, I'll watch it.
Okay,
check it
also,
out.
I had beans and franks on my.
I just thought you were making a joke. I had no idea it had anything to do with this voicemail. Turns out that you were talking about the wrong movie, but I appreciated it.
Shocker.
I appreciated it. All right, buddy, that is it for another episode of True Crime All the Time Unsolved. So for Mike
and Gibby,
stay safe and keep your own time ticking.
Welcome to Pluto Phone. If you know the name of the movie you would like to see, just stream it for free on Pluto TV, where all your blockbuster favorites are landing all summer long. Catch Anchorman, The Legend of Ron Burgundy.
Fantastic.
Men in Black, 1 through 3.
That's what I'm talking about.
Mean Girls.
Shut up.
Titanic.
I'm the king of the world.
And so much more. For showtimes, press nothing. They're free 24/7.
That is so fetch.
On Pluto TV. Stream now, pay never.